Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. How are you this morning? Hello. How are you, friends? How are you this morning? Doing great. There's good things in your day. Hello, hello. Hey, Irene. Good morning to you. Great to see you here. Hope you're doing great. Good morning, Donna. Hello, Karen. Good morning to you. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I hope you're doing all right on this grand and beautiful day. The sun is out and it is beautiful on this wonderful day. In the 50s, it is proper fall. It is the that great quote that says, how lucky are we that we live in a world in which there is October. It is quite fantastic. Hey, Jamie, good morning to you. All right, friends, let's get going this morning. It is the 23rd day of October on this Thursday, and welcome to 11:11. I hope that wherever you are and wherever you are found, that these next 11 minutes may be a blessing to you, and know that you're a part of this journey with me and with all those who are gathering in our little digital space, and those for whom will hear this message go out into the world, and that it might give you an encouragement. So this morning there's this line from Paul's letter to the church in Galatia. And so Paul is again writing these letters to try and encourage the churches, trying to give them a way ahead, and he's identified like problems within the churches and challenges, and so he's kind of given them some instruction and given them some help to get his line. And he writes this line. This is from the very beginning of the letter. He says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Now we'll spend a little bit of a moment unpacking that, because it's an interesting phrase, the law of Christ. What does he mean? Because this is not like nowhere is this laid out. He uses the phrase a few different times, and it shows up a few different times. It shows up in Corinthians. It shows up in a few different places. This phrase, the law of Christ. He doesn't say the grace of Christ. He could say but Paul is one of the first guys who's working this out post Jesus. He's one of the first writings of the church that we have, and he's still working through this. And most scholars think when he talks about the law of Christ, what he's talking about is this encounter that Jesus has with one of the scribes. But we find the story in Mark, and we find the story in Matthew, and this story when the scribe asked Jesus the question, what is the greatest of the law? And Jesus responds, to love God with all your heart, with all your understanding, with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. these are more important than burnt offerings. That's how it shows up in Mark. In Matthew, it shows up a little differently. He says, "Teacher, which command is the greatest of these?" And he says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and your soul and your mind. This is the greatest and most important command. The second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And all the law and the prophets depend on these two commands." So what we have are these, when Paul is talking about the law of Christ, most scholars believe he's reaching back and referencing this law, which, by the way, isn't original to Jesus. It is in fact original to Deuteronomy. It is original to the Hebrew instruction of how they are to be with one another. And then which is this, this little group of folks, little group of folks lost out in the wilderness. But the question becomes, how are they supposed to be? Now this is how we're supposed to be to the world, that we should love one another and love God and love one another. These two instructions are the core of the law of Christ. And we fulfill that. And I think this is a curious phrase. The more you think about it, the more you spend a little time with it. So you gotta get that part to get the other part that I think is really the most beautiful, which is carry each other's burdens. By carrying each other's burdens, we fulfill loving God and we fulfill loving our neighbor. That this is not that there's a way to do this. It's not a notional proposition. It is not a belief structure. We think about, okay, what is it to believe in God? What is it to believe in these things? We hang up a lot of things on belief where, we're getting close to the Reformation Sunday where, it's about being saved by our belief or our faith. Well, yes, and that inherently has an implication behind it about how we are to be with each other, that we might carry one another's burdens. One of the greatest books on Vietnam I've ever read is a book called "The Things We Carried." If you want to kind of scratch the experience of the warrior in Vietnam, that book will do it. And it is this real soulful and deep examination of not just the war itself. There's some of that, but really the experience of the soldier in what they encountered in war and what that laid upon their hearts, what that laid upon them, and the things that they carried. And the author was what it's at its core is the things that they carried were really each other. They carried each other's struggles. They carried each other's pain. That those warriors together really cared for. What they carried was each other's challenges and difficulties and pains through the course of that. And even that, and even a wider sense of this about our own willingness to step in and risk for the wider world, the things that we carry for the world. You think of every time a police officer goes on watch, the things that they're carrying, the willingness to step into society and step into the world of violence so that the world can be peaceable. They're carrying they're carrying the burden of us not having to think about our personal security every second of every day. Now we should think about our personal security, but that you see what I'm saying? We somehow believe that there's somebody out there that's going to care about it too, and so we lay that burden on them. They take up that burden. That everything we think about, for the firemen, the teachers, the person that we buy our Dunkin' Donuts from, there's this way in which that even they, in the most basic and simple way, you can say, well, we give them some money, they get a wage, we can dress it up that way, but at the end of the day, they're making us they're they're taking on to carry a bit of the burden of our sustenance. I know maybe you feel like you're breaking that down too much, you're expanding that, you're extending that too long, but I don't think I am. I actually think, and that when we, and it's our sometimes unwillingness to look at it that way, because we can look at it in terms of our own selfishness or our own just getting doing our own job, but there's this way in which we carry each other's burdens. But I really think within our little community right here, right here with this little 11 minutes at 11:11 community that we've been journeying through for over 5 years now, that this little encounter that we have, that if you've been a part of this, if you were an early adopter, or if you're just discovering this little community, I have even borne that the encounter with people's worries or their sickness, or somebody posting something in the thread about what's going on with them, and the way that I've seen others respond. I've seen friendships fostered through these little digital communications, and all of it. And what's happening? It is a way of us carrying each other's burdens. Friends, I want to invite you to be willing to not just even be willing. So many of you are willing. That's not the point. To step into the awareness of what we carry for each other. We're in a world right now that everything, and if you look at the messaging that we're getting, you look at the way in which the world is being structured, the way the things that are coming at us, it is about us being separated from, being unwilling to carry one another's burdens, unwilling to listen to somebody else's grief and to take it on as our own, to listen to someone else's struggle and to help and to come alongside them and to work with them. We are being separated out in all these different ways. And yet the heart of what it is to fulfill the law of Christ is to carry each other's burdens. At its heart, I think there is this way in which we're really meant to lay ourselves down. We're coming up on Reformation Sunday, so I can't not make a reference, because so the Reformation 500 years ago was started by Martin Luther with the putting treaties, the nailing the treaties to the doors, the criticisms of the Catholic Church, which would give us this launch into the churches as we now have it, and the movement of the Holy Spirit in a new way in the world that was outside of the boundaries of one simple church within the Western world, that we might have, I think, a little more of a personal relationship with the one who made us, which is, I think, what the Reformation really brings about. But that all happens. There's a guy about 100 years earlier by the name of Jan Hus. And Jan Hus, who is this Bohemian, he is a reformer. He brings the scriptures into the local language, and he believed them to be infallible and supreme on all matters. And he was burned at the stake in Germany for it on his 42nd birthday. That he was, and without Jan Hus, 108 years earlier, you don't get Martin Luther, and without Martin Luther, you don't get the revival that happens in Scrooby, England. Without the revival that happens in Scrooby, England, you don't get John Robinson saying, "Yet there is yet more light to be revealed from the Word of God." Without John Robinson, you don't get the pilgrims who come across the shore in November. Without the pilgrims, you don't get America. You don't get the American experience, because it is not just the idea that people came from other places to come here, but that the true idea of an American place place where there could be where freedom could be exercised, where faith could be a pillar of life under one's own conscience, and where the world could be reorganized in a new way around essentially the Bill of Rights, which is what we will come to, the explosion of freedom that comes out of the world with the arrival of them both in conscience and in character and in governance. All of that, I think you can almost draw a direct line back to Jan Hus, who declares who carried for us. And oh, by the way, all those people I mentioned in between, all of those characters, many of them nameless that we will never know and that will never know us, all of them carried for us this desire for us to know God in a deeper way, and for the world to know the Lord in a deeper way, and also and the fruit of that, which is this, to love God and to love our neighbor, and to do that well, without tyranny, without violence, without pestilence and poverty. And Jan Hus' last words were this, as the flames were being lit, in which where he would be burned to death, and because if he renounced his faith, he would have been given a merciful death, but the burning at the stake was reserved for people who would not renounce their faith, who would carry for us, for people that he would never know, the willingness to declare the love of God in the world and the ability for us to know it, that he would carry that all the way, even to his suffering in the death at the burning at the stake. And in his last words, he would say, "What I taught with my lips, I seal with my blood." Friends, may we seal with our blood the living of our days, to carry each other's burdens, because that is the fulfillment of the law of Christ. May we carry each other's burdens when we make a good cup of coffee for each other. Maybe we carry each other's burdens when we hear another's worry, another's anxiety, another's grief, and we hold it with them. May we carry each other's burdens when we help lift somebody up that is struggling in financially or economically or physically. May we carry each other's burdens as we move through this world. May we carry each other's burdens when we share our own burdens with another and let ourselves be loved when we so desperately need it. May we carry each other's burdens, and in this way we will fulfill the law of Christ. Peace and grace to you all, my friends, and we will pick it up next week with another 11:11. This week we are in the last of our we are in the fourth of our four-part series on the book of Habakkuk, the great prophet from the 8th of the 12 minor prophets, and his invitation of how we might live in this world as it breaks down. This is I hope you'll be a part of it here at 282 Rock Street, or join us online. Peace and grace to you all, and carry each other's burdens. We'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.